Welcome back to LCOBMW, the Build Something channel. I'm Glenn McGowan. Today I'm going to be talking about the real cost of a DIY paint job. I'm going to talk about the price of the materials, talk about the time, and then I'm also going to talk about some comparisons as far as having your car painted professionally at a shop or possibly vinyl wrapping. So let's get into it. This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW.com. Shop our site for Corvette performance parts. We now have our new D.I.Y Cat Delete pipes back in stock, our new test pipes, and we now have a new version of our hose kit available. This is for 88 to 91. This includes a fitting that you can hook your hose directly up to the hose that's on your car on the firewall. So check out the link in the description or visit LCOBMW.com. For those of you just tuning in, I just got done doing a DIY paint job on my 85 Corvette here. I got all the tools and everything I needed pretty much locally. The only thing I did have was the air compressor. Other than that, I ended up buying an inflatable paint booth. I also got a cheap booth to put up in the shop that I could sand the car to keep the dust down. Other than that, pretty much anything that you can get from like a Harbor Freight or any kind of, tool supplier, Amazon, you can get everything you need to actually do this type of project for relatively cheap for the most part. It's just a lot of your time and labor, especially if you're not experienced with this. But I'm still kind of in the process of finishing this up because I'm doing the cut and buff on it now, which takes a while, but I'm also not in a rush to finish it. I'm just doing a little bit at a time just to kind of, go over all the little imperfections of the clear coat. So I'm gonna do a quick walk around right now of the car so you can kind of get a better idea how this thing turned out. All right, so I did cut and buff this part of the hood already, which turned out pretty good. There are some areas and stuff I still have to go over. All in all, it turned out pretty good. There's definitely a lot of imperfections in the clear coat, which is kind of common, but that's why you cut and buff it. And that's an area that I'm working on right now. Okay, so first things I'll talk about is like the price of everything that I had to purchase to make this thing happen. So besides the air compressor, I had to get a sander, I had to get a paint gun, all of the like inline water filtration, water dryer, all the sandpaper, pretty much everything you need to do a project like this. So I'm gonna go down my list here. I'm gonna kind of just base everything. So what I did was I only primed certain areas of the car. I didn't prime the whole car, mainly the areas that needed a lot of body work. The car was relatively straight, didn't have a lot of cracks or anything like that. So I ended up just getting a sealer, a base coat, and a clear coat. I didn't do a single stage, which is also an option, is also a cheaper option. So that was pretty much my process. So besides obviously the materials that I needed, I had bought some cans of primer, and there's just a lot of really little miscellaneous stuff. Overall, scuff pads, razor blades, shop towels, spray bottles, all that kind of stuff. Instead of listing things, every little thing, I'm going to kind of just rough summarize, throw a couple of numbers, and I'll sum it all up at the end. So the material that I bought, and this wasn't the top end stuff at all, this was pretty good stuff. It was PPG shop line, which is kind of like a middle of the road base coat, and then I spent a little bit more on the clear coat, which was a PPG product as well. It was a little better, but not super high end. All that with a sealer was just over $1,700, so $1,710 just over the material. Like I said, single stage you can definitely get a lot cheaper. If you're kind of on a budget, I would say definitely do that because it'll still turn out really nice and you can actually cut and buff that too. So you kind of have the best of both worlds if you don't want to spend a ton of money yourself, because the guy I was talking to at the paint place was saying like it could be 2 to 3 times that cost if you went super high end on the paint. So that's a whole other animal if you're trying to, build a car for SEMA or you want a full paint job. I mean, it's probably something you should be doing the first time you're trying this, but there's paint out there and it can be really expensive, especially pearls and metal flake and all those custom colors. This is pretty much just a basic red. So it wasn't terribly expensive, but still $1,700. I remember back in the day, you get like a whole car painted for like $800 or something like that, like a Mako, but just this paint alone, $1,700. I bought an inflatable paint booth. At the time, I paid like a little over $700. It was on sale on Amazon. It's going right now for right around $800, a little over $800. And in my series that I did, it's all documented. All the description or links to everything I bought, like down to the nitty gritty, every little spot putty, razor blade, all that kind of stuff is in there. So if you are gonna go down the road, there's a list of everything that I pretty much bought. So $800 for the paint booth. The paint gun, 180 bucks. You can get cheaper ones. In my descriptions too, I have links to like cheaper ones. You can get one for like 30 bucks and would probably do the trick, would probably get it done. If you're a professional, obviously you're gonna have like something super high end, but you know, if you're just doing something, you wanna just paint the car, make it better than it was, there are a lot of cheap options for paint guns. I bought Eastwood's Concourse one, it was 180 bucks. Originally going into this is like, yeah, now I'll be able to paint anything I want. Now I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna paint anything, at least for like another couple years, so I forget that how hard this was and how, like, you know, it just robs you of your time because it's just such a monotonous project. But it did turn out good, so I am happy that way. About 80 bucks on primer, sandpaper, like $140. I also included the stuff I had to buy for the cutting and buffing, which I'll get to in a minute. Miscellaneous stuff was like $250 with the little things. It was probably more, you know, just popping in for the Home Depot to grab some scuff pads or some plastic paper or masking tape or something like that. But I kind of summed up around 250 bucks. Body fillers like 35 bucks. Spa putties like $6. Just little stuff like that. Applicators. One thing I did mention earlier was the tent I got. I got this 20 by 10 party tent essentially from like walmart.com. It was on sale, it was like 90 bucks or something, and I put that up in the shop and I plastic it all off, so it was pretty much sealed. I had a fan going through it because this car originally had a single stage paint and it was red, and when you sand it, it was just nasty and messy, and the red stuff was on the walls, on the ceiling. It was like a trail from the shop over to my house, and then like in the house. It was really nasty stuff. But if I didn't use the tent, you probably still see red behind me in the shop because it was just everywhere. So the tent really kind of cut down on all the whole prep stuff because I primed everything in there, did everything, and it was just right back there where my red 69 was. I had the whole area set up specifically for prepping. So I was glad I did that. I kept that tent too, so next time I'll have that. So that was 100. And then miscellaneous like spray paint for doing some trim and stuff when I was putting it back together was 40 bucks. So pretty much the material, the sandpaper, the sander, I think I didn't mention that, 45 bucks I got from Harbor Freight DA sander, and that worked out pretty good throughout the whole project. I used it. A couple other little things too that was pretty essential in my opinion. You have to get a good water separator and a dryer for your air compressor. I have one on there, and it was old, so I just replaced it. And I also got like an inline water separator for the gun itself, just to keep water out of there, because you're trying to eliminate all that kind of stuff, because it's a pain just to prep the car and get it all ready for paint. And then the last thing you want to do is, you know, paint the car and have water spots over everything. You essentially got to sand it all back down and shoot it again. So they have prices for that stuff, relatively cheap and then really expensive. I priced all three pieces, was just under $100, $92 for the two on the tank and then the one on the gun. So that was worth it too. So altogether, pretty much all that stuff just to get the car painted, $3,450. So yeah, I mean, it does sound like a lot of money if you're thinking painting your car yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I can do it for a couple $100. But all that little stuff adds up if you don't have any of that stuff. So, you know, I will get into talking about the vinyl wrap, and then if you'd have the car painted here in a minute once I finish up that. So all in all, I think in today's climate, it's 2023, price of stuff's pretty high. So all this stuff for $3,450 really isn't bad. So you're essentially set up now that you could paint other cars, and that was originally my plan, So just for the cut and buff, I bought a buffer from Amazon. They have them anywhere from like $50 to $80. And the one I got actually works pretty good. I haven't had any issues with it yet, but I'm still using it, but it's been working out pretty good. $65 for all the different pads I had to get. About 60 bucks so far on compound, and 60 bucks on polish too. It'd probably be a little bit more, like I said, I'm not done yet. That's 265 bucks for all the cutting and buffing stuff, which really isn't that bad. Things I got that you don't really need to get, but I got because I'm like, you know, just painting the car, I might as well just fix up some little things. Like I replaced all the weather stripping on the car. I replaced the outside door seals, which kind of leave a bad. You kind of have to take those off anyway. Gotta get sealer for that kind of stuff. And then I replaced all of the emblems on it, the one in the front and then the two in the back. So all that together was another $505. So grand total for everything that I spent would be roughly $4,220. So at that price point now, I know a shop locally that I'm friends with, they can vinyl wrap your car pretty much a basic solid color. I think they take most of the trim off and they do really good work. Their starting price is $4,000. So can you wrap your car cheaper than that? Probably. Obviously, are there shops out there that can wrap your car cheaper? Probably. In that case, with anything, you kind of get what you pay for. But that's a good comparison right there. So you can spend $4,000 and drop the car off, get it back like a week later, or you could spend the $4,000 and just spend God knows how long just to prep your car and then paint the thing. And it is a lot of work. But the other option too would be to go have it painted somewhere. So another customer I have in my BMW parts business, he has a paint and body shop, and he quoted me originally $6,000 to $10,000 exterior paint. This isn't changing color, not taking the doors off, and that was about a year ago. I'm sure those prices went up. So to get a car that you paint and then it's cut and buffed, I mean, that's okay. I would say probably in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. If it's done nice with good materials that the paint's not gonna fade like a year later, that's probably like the price point, you know, 10 to 15, I would guess. Because there is no doubt in my mind, and I've seen and talked to people that build really high-end stuff or just really nice cars and local custom shops, they want 30 grand all day long for a really nice paint job. And when you think of all of the time it takes to pull every panel off, do the inside, the out, you know, basic clear it, wet sand it, it is just very monotonous. They got a team of people doing it, and it's a lot of work. And you know, 30 grand sounds like a lot of money, but just the amount of labor that goes into that is everything. So that is the biggest thing, in my opinion, looking back, is that's the biggest hang up for me, is that I didn't do this like full time, did a couple hours here, a couple hours there. I started this right before June, and it just hit November, and I'm still cutting and buffing the car. Although it's been back together for a couple months now, just the prep alone just took a really long time. And you kind of go over it and you're trying to be really meticulous because you want to get it right. And the reality of that is that it's the first time you do something, unless you're Mr. Perfect, you're going to mess up and things aren't going to work out as good. Like the car looks good, but there are plenty of places in there I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that. But that's just the learning curve. So, you know, if you follow the series, you know that like my father was a painter. I kind of grew up into this, and I never liked it. And I just did this mainly for content for the channel, and I was like, oh, the car needs to be painted, this will be cool. You know, I'm mainly like a suspension, an engine. I love, that's more my passion, my speed, what I love doing. I love building stuff like that. Like when I did the air ride on the car, that's just right up my alley. The paint stuff has just really monotonous. So if you're the kind of person that can't sit down for more than an hour, then like I would say don't do it, because it just takes a lot of time. And every time I have to come out here and cut and buff, it's just like a nightmare. I just want it to be done. But you know, at the end of the day, it turned out nice. So they're pretty much your pros and cons on it, in my personal opinion. Obviously, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I probably would have just sent it out and have it painted, or have it wrapped probably, because I think that's kind of cool. And then if you want to change the color, you can just pull it off. I also did not take off the doors or anything like that on this car. A lot, even the trim and stuff like that, I didn't bother taking off because all the nuts were stripped off in the back. So there's just a lot of labor in disassembly if you were gonna do it the correct way. But the way I turned out, there's really no, it's a hard to kind of tell, there's no like paint on the trim or anything. I took my time, did it right. So all in all, when you look at it, I think the car looks really good. It's just hard to look at it when you're trying to be a perfectionist with it and there's little imperfections here and there. But most people come up to it, look at it, they think it looks great. So that's what I would say. I would say wrap, you know, DIY paint, roughly the same. Or, you know, you can go anywhere from 6 to like 30 grand, depending on the quality that you want on your paint job. If you want a flawless, you know, SEMA quality paint job, you're gonna spend a lot of money on it. And if you do a custom color, it's gonna be even more. So that's my food for thought on this. Will I do it again? I probably will. Now that I learned so much, I feel it kind of be stupid to like pick up so many little skills and details. And I had some help from a couple people that really, you know, showed me the little tricks, because it's very tricky to be, you know, good at body work and getting things straight and having that kind of eye for it. But I probably will do it again, but it's going to be a while before I actually do it. So that is it on the price. All right, so that's it for today's video. So all in all, it's not a hard thing to do. It is just a little tedious. I'm not trying to push anybody away from doing it. I'm pro at building your own car yourself, because that's what this channel's all about. That's what I'm all about. So don't be afraid to get out there and sand your car down and shoot it in the driveway if you want to. Or you could just go have somebody else do it, but that's not as cool. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.